Hi everyone, welcome to S Cube TV. My name is Rajni, and today I have with me a very special guest with us. His name is Bill Coryer, and he is the co-founder of Reiki Education and Research Institute. So, Mr. Bill, welcome to S Cube TV. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. And thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on your program.
It's indeed a pleasure having you on the show. So, I would like to, before I ask you about your organization and your institute, I would like to know something about you. And because you are the co-founder of the institute, so, how did you, how was your journey and what did you do before that? And what made you think of starting this institute, if you can talk about that?
I'd be more than happy to. My journey was one of a combination of owning multiple businesses and working in corporate America as a corporate restructurer. So that was a kind of a wonderful experience, as they say. Ultimately, though, I developed a lot of health issues over the years due to my work and different things, due to the stress levels that were involved. And at one point, the medical community wasn't too supportive, and in the sense that they didn't really know how to solve my problems, I guess is what I would say. It wasn't that they weren't willing, but the medications and things created more problems and things along that line. So I got introduced to Reiki kind of accidentally. My wife brought home a business card from a lady, and I called the person and asked what it was. And when I had my first Reiki session, it was like I'd come home. And over time, it basically gave me back my life. And it changed me in a very positive way, and it took all that stress away and enabled me to heal on multiple levels. And that's when I really began to say, oh man, this is something everybody should have. And accidentally, I started a meetup group in 2007, January of 2007. And comically enough, at the first meetup, one of the people there said something to me. She said, "You're going to have a big organization." And I looked at her like, what? And it ended up, she was one of the ones that actually pushed us to get started in setting up the organization. And there were several that got involved in the beginning, and they wanted me to set up an organization to teach it. And ultimately, we wrote a program for a nonprofit application for the federal government, and it was approved almost instantly, which surprised us because everybody told us it'll take time, it'll take months or years even to get this done. And basically, I wrote it myself because we couldn't afford lawyers. And in 30 days, we were approved from the time we sent it in. And I thought, oh, this is a message. Apparently, this is what we're supposed to do. So it was very easy. And since then, the organization has shifted and changed and grown. We've done a lot of different things. Our journey's been interesting. My own personal healing has just continued. I would say I'm healthier now than I was 30 years ago. And I attribute it all to Reiki. And so that's something. The organization, initially when we came into play, we taught, we did programs in various places, and we continue to do that. COVID's kind of put a crimp in some of the ability to go out and do programs in the public and to have face-to-face classes and things, but we've adjusted. We're doing programs online and things along that line. One of our biggest programs was where we did work at Gaston Memorial Hospital Cancer Center for 3 years, working on cancer patients and caregivers. And the results were very interestingly positive. So that's kind of the history.
I mean, that's really amazing because, when I read about Reiki and when I knew about Reiki, so I actually got to know that it has to do things with the energies, the universal energies, which, few people believe in and few people don't. So when I ask you, because you are the obviously the co-founder of this institute and who certainly believes in Reiki. So when I talk about Reiki to you, can you please explain how exactly does it work? Because I am the one who actually believes in energies and all those cosmos and universe secrets and all those things. So when I ask you, so can you please help us break down few steps that how does Reiki exactly works? Or is this that something that you have in your mind? Yeah.
Reiki is interesting in that it's a little different than most energy modalities, in that it's more spiritual than it is just a physically oriented practice. And the idea behind the Reiki is that we're channeling energy from the universe, um, or a higher source, whatever you want to call it. We call it the universe to be as
Mm-hmm.
neutral as possible. We're channeling energy. We're really just a funnel, and we connect to the energy source, channel it for whatever intent we intended to go to. So if it's for personal healing, it's for ourselves. If it's for somebody else, it's for that. Could be for a situation or a place. The energy just flows through us. We don't control the energy either. So there's often a misconception that we do it. We're just a channel, okay? So people say, "Oh, thank you," and I say, "Don't thank me, thank the energy," because we're just a sort of a conduit, okay, or a channel for the energy, and we're channeling energy for the highest good. And that's another thing that people have a little trouble with is highest good. Everybody thinks they know what the highest good is, but it isn't always what we think it is, and that's a bit of a challenge on occasion. Other than that, it's very difficult to definitively or scientifically explain it. And the reason for that is even science has trouble figuring it out. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. Quantum physics has decided that everything is energy based. When we first got involved, they said this was all our imagination. Okay. But that's changed over the years. And ultimately, it was at the cancer center where something happened. We had a medical physicist who was monitoring our program and evaluating the results of the program. And he was against having us there because he said scientifically this was not appropriate. Okay. So when he came and found me, he said, "I want to talk to you." I thought, oh, he's found a problem. Okay. So he brought me in his office. He said, "Look at this." And he had a bunch of things on his computer. And I said, "Sir, I don't know what I'm looking at," because I really didn't know what he had on his computer or what it was supposed to symbolize. And he indicated that the energy, whenever we did a session, it was impacting the client. Okay. In their case, they call it a patient, but I have to use the word client. Ultimately, it was impacting the client, and that after 3 to 5 sessions, the need for medication and the pain levels that these cancer patients were experiencing started to go down. And I said, "Really?" Because I was kind of blown away by it. I thought it would help, but I had no idea at the level. Okay. And he wanted to measure our hands electronically to see if he could figure out what was coming out of them. And he actually locked us in a radiation vault and hooked us up to some equipment and had us do, I say us because my primary partner, Mei Yin Hung, was with me, and we both sent energy to this box that was all electronically wired. It didn't prove anything specifically. He said something happened, but he couldn't prove it scientifically because there wasn't enough evidence. But after that, we started measuring brain waves and things like that, and there was definite indicators that things happen. How it works, we don't really know. Everybody has an opinion, but ultimately, the way I feel it works and my experience has been, I ask the energy to flow. It flows through me to whatever intention I am intending it to, whether it's in person or remotely. And that's another aspect of this type of energy work. It can be done remotely anywhere in the world. And so these types of things are hard to explain. But if you go back to science and quantum physics, and they say that everything's energetic and the universe is all one big ball of energy and we're just part of it, then that changes the viewpoint because we're just part of this big energy force. And if we direct energy somewhere, it stands to reason it could go there because it's all energy. I don't know if that
I mean
helps.
that. Yeah, I mean, it did actually, because even I do believe that everything is energy, and because even the soul that we are is also an energy. So I do get what you're trying to tell here. So with that, I also would like to know. So, would you say that in Reiki you have direct connection with the God?
You could word it that way. I think what happens is my feeling is that the what we have is an attunement process where the master attunes a person to the energy.
Mm,
And I think in the attunement process, we all have connection. Okay, so don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you're not connected if you're not attuned to Reiki, because
mhm.
I think even science is beginning to realize there's something going on that's beyond what they can really nail down in the physical realm. And my feeling is what you just described is very legitimate statement in the sense that when we do the attunement, we clear out some of the channels of that connection to enable a greater flow of that energy. We're all connected to it or we wouldn't be walking around. And ultimately, as we get attuned to Reiki, the more we use it, it's sort of like pipes that haven't been used for a long time. They get clogged with garbage and they gradually flush out. So the more you use them, the cleaner they become and the more you can channel the energy. And you benefit from it as well as any recipient because it's flowing through you. And I think, well, I don't think, I'm convinced it's coming from what I would call, you called it God. I'll agree with you. Some people call it source. Some people call it, I use universe to be neutral, but there's
Mhm.
all kinds of religious connotations to this. And I don't want to be slanted one way or the other because in our experience, we found that it fits with any religion, any belief system, because we don't have a
Okay.
belief system. It's strictly a thing that fits with everybody's belief systems. So that said, yes, I would say it's coming from that source, that ultimate source, and that connection to the energy is just stronger and gives the attuned person the ability to channel that energy for the highest good for themselves or somebody else or a situation or whatever.
Okay, got it. So now, in Reiki, it is also said that it obviously treats the pain, but it doesn't treat the disease. I mean, it can help you reduce the pain, and it also can help you, help you get away or you feel better if you're in pain. But if it cannot treat the disease. So would you say that is true, or would you say it can also treat the disease?
Well, I would change the wording a little bit from my perspective. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
What I would say is this, that disease, and The Secret made this very public, the book The Secret or the movie,
Yeah.
dis-ease. Okay. Your body's not at ease any longer. Okay.
Okay.
And in allopathic medicine, they treat symptomatology. Okay, so if you have pain, they give you pills or something to reduce the pain. In some cases, they may do surgery or some other, you might go to physical therapy. There's a whole laundry list of ways that they approach it. Reiki
Mm,
doesn't directly approach healing in that format. Our view of it is that there's usually an underlying cause for a problem. Okay. So no matter what your problem is, what you're experiencing, something produced it. And we consider it to be stuck energy. Now, this is an ancient way of looking at things that in older cultures, especially Eastern cultures, but also in Native American cultures, they feel that all illness is due to energy that's not working well in the body. Okay.
mm,
And so our feeling is in agreement with that, and the idea is that the energy that we put into a person or we send to a person is sort of like to flush out energy that is no longer serving their highest good and to allow them to be filled up with new, fresh energy at a little bit higher vibration that works. Now, I'll compare that in the physical realm to a car wash. If you just rain on your car, the dirt doesn't come off because the water's just coming down. But if you put it through a high pressure car wash, it blows all the dirt off. And so Reiki is more like that high pressure car wash. The energy is always flowing in us, but when you start channeling Reiki, it's more high volume and it's at a higher frequency. So it kind of pushes stuck energy out. And so it goes to underlying causes at an energetic level. So is it going to solve pain? It may or may not right in the beginning. We often see people's pain reduced almost immediately, but I can't guarantee that's going to happen, okay? Because there may be something that's going on that has to be worked on first, okay? But we've seen situations, and just give you an example, say somebody hurts their leg. Practitioners often with Reiki start on the head. It's just something we do, okay? And start working there if you're working in the physical realm. If you're working remotely, then it's a little different. But ultimately, often just the minute the Reiki starts to flow, the pain subsides because that's a very minor thing. It's an injury where you just occurred. It hasn't been building up for a long time. Now you take the other extreme, and I'll use cancer because we've dealt with a lot of cancer patients over the years. The pain there is deep-seated. It's been there for a long time. It's been growing. There's tumors. There's all kinds of aspects as well as complicating factors from the medications and the treatments. That kind of pain is a lot more difficult to resolve. But again, we've seen some people get relief almost immediately. We've seen others where it took multiple treatments to get any relief at all. So it's hard to quantify it in that respect. I don't know if that helped.
Yeah, it did. Okay, so now, I also would like to know from you, so can a normal person like me or anyone else, can they also learn Reiki and help themselves?
Absolutely. Everybody can learn Reiki. It's very easy to learn. Our organization is primarily an educational organization. We teach it to everybody. We've taught children as young as 7 years old. And the oldest individual that I've had in class, I think, is 74 when she took the program. So there's kind of no limit to who can learn it. It's not difficult. It's more beginning to practice it and learning to utilize it in a positive way. Okay, because often we're programmed to think it's got to be very technical, okay? Because in the world we live in, everything's technical, okay? And if you haven't got a machine hooked to you, nothing's happening. And ultimately, Reiki is not that way. So your mindset has to alter a little bit. And with that said, as people start to open up to it and experience it, that's when you start to learn, because experiential is the big factor. There's material you have to learn, but ultimately it's practice. Sort of like learning a musical instrument. You can learn all the paperwork stuff, but until you actually try the instrument, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Because also, in this 2020, when people were dealing with mental health problems and so much, everyone was recommending to give themselves a bit of a time and and try and meditate. So everyone was recommending each other to meditate, especially in this year, because they had to go through a lot. And I think meditation is also that energy that keeps you calm and that actually holds you from within. And I think one cannot just be a meditator and cannot just be an expert and suddenly change themselves. They will have to practice it every day, and that's how it is going to help you. And I think it is the same with Reiki too, is it?
I would agree. Most everything along those lines is energy oriented, okay? So whether it be meditation or other types of energy work that is done. However, I would add to this a little bit. one experience I had that I've been a meditator for a long time and way before Reiki. Okay. I never had the results that I got with Reiki. And I'm not saying it wasn't meditation didn't help me, but Reiki helped my meditation. It took me deeper.
Okay.
And then I was working with a client one day, and it was the first time I'd met him, and I didn't know him. I didn't know anything about him. Did a Reiki session. After the session, he said, "Wow, that was interesting." And I said, "Okay, could you mind sharing?" He said, "Well, I've been doing transcendental meditation for 25 years, and I've never gone that deep." And so he asked me before the session if he could go into a meditative state. I said, "Oh, absolutely. That's a great thing to do." Okay. Because that takes away their paying attention to what you're doing and getting in the way of the energy flow. And I didn't know he was a transcendental meditation, which is a fairly complicated type of meditation. But ultimately, he'd been doing this for 25 years, and he said the Reiki, even though he was meditating, the energy took him much deeper than he'd ever been. And he wanted to learn it at that point because he said, if I can learn to do this while I'm meditating, this is going to be very powerful. And he confirmed that as he got more involved and started doing self work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
That's amazing. Yeah.
I think the two work well together.
Yeah, I mean, that's really amazing. And also, if someone wants to learn that, you also mentioned that if someone wants to learn, they can connect with you, they can connect with your institute. So, are you guys also teaching it online these days? Because, everything is happening online. So can we, or can anyone else visit your website or your social networks?
Yes, you can visit our website and on there there's options. I'm not looking at it right now, but at the top there's services, I think it is, and if you drop that down, you'll see classes or training, and you go there and it'll actually list the programs that are available. We have programs online now. The calendar, I think, is up to date. I'm not sure. I say I think because I don't handle that end of it, but ultimately we have classes coming up in the beginning of the year, both our what we call our fundamental program and our advanced programs coming in the beginning of the year. Later in the year, we'll have a master training program. The fundamental program, for people who don't know us, we combine levels 1 and 2 of Reiki into one program because we feel it's important you learn both levels, or you kind of don't have enough to really benefit on all levels. So we teach it as one program. And so those programs are online, they're available, anybody can register. And yes, it's all done with video, sort of like we're doing right now. We have video conferencing set up, and the students are in a classroom, they all see each other, they can all talk to each other, but it's all virtual.
Okay, that's amazing because everything is happening virtual, and I think it is a new norm, and I think it is going to be interesting. And I would recommend, all the audiences is watching us right now to connect with you soon and learn that Reiki. I mean, learn Reiki because it really helps you. Because I totally believe in energies, and I totally believe that positive energies do. Okay, so now moving on to my next question, I would like to ask you about, with this institute and organization, what is your mission that you have, and what is that? You must have vision, you must have a goal for this organization. So, what is that goal that you have?
Our mission and vision is basically this: to heal individuals, the community, and the world physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually using Reiki and energy healing modality. Our vision is that we become a leading force in providing best practices for Reiki education and healing services. So that's kind of where we're at. And that came about going back to when they pushed us to start a program. We felt that Reiki wasn't really respected well. And ultimately, whoops, I think I lost you.
Yeah, hi, I'm there. Yeah. You can please
Sorry about
continue.
that.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
No problem. I was just saying that what started us was they were pushing us to teach because we were concerned about the disrespect people had for Reiki. And in some cases, the lack of professionalism of the way it was approached. And I think that that's an important factor for everybody to understand that Reiki is not just a hobby, it's serious, and it's something that can really benefit and impact others as well as yourself. And we've we've been able to show and demonstrate over time that it can impact a lot of things. We have medical doctors that actually refer people to us because they're facing challenges that their medical practices aren't able to really resolve. And when they send them to us, either the something changes. Okay, I can't say we cured anything, um, but they see things change. So those doctors and nurses involved actually, one of our instructors is a nurse, a medical person. Okay, one of our Reiki masters is a medical doctor. So they've seen a lot happen. Okay, and the doctor I mentioned, he saw some things happen with the cancer patients, which really kind of blew his mind. And we were impressed as well. So we had no idea. But ultimately, he wanted to learn it so that he could use it to help calm people down while he was talking to them, because often people are nervous in those settings. And the Reiki can relax people and make them more receptive. And one of the things it does do is make them more receptive to treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I diverged a little bit, but anyway.
No problem. No problem. Okay. So that's great. You have a amazing mission, and I wish you all the best in that, because people, especially in these times, people really need positive energies, and someone whom they can share their problems, share their issues, and they can and someone who can help them deal with all these issues and take them out of it. So I wish you all the best for your mission. And speaking of that, I also would like to ask you that I mean, your organization. When I talk about your organization, so how big is it? I mean, how many people do you have, and do you have a hierarchy in that? Because like you are the co-founder, so if someone
we
wants to connect, who can they connect with?
we have a board of directors as the any organization of this nature is required to have. There's 3 board members. I'm one of the board members. We have 4 teachers, 4 people who teach. Okay, and currently we have, in addition to that, we have 7 volunteers that are doing various jobs or helping with various aspects of the organization. It's Everybody involved are volunteers, as I mentioned earlier. So there's no paid personnel. So sometimes it fluctuates who's available and who's working. There's primarily the teachers and myself and my partner who was involved in the co-founding of the organization, Mei Yin Hung, which also happens to be my wife. We are always available, okay? And that's why when you said something about holiday time, we very seldom get any holiday time, but in that respect. But it's okay because we really believe in what we're doing and we thrive on it. And where a lot of people want to break from work, we love what we do. So it's very rewarding.
Yeah, and it must be, because you are doing something really great and really amazing. And also, if someone wants to volunteer, so how can they? I mean, obviously, I think on your website, through your website and from your social media networks, they can connect with you if they want to volunteer in your organization.
Yeah, they can either call us or write to us. Both our phone number and our email address are available on social media and on our website. They would normally speak to Mei Yin Hung, who is kind of handles the operations and the volunteer side of it. And ultimately, we have opportunities for people who aren't even involved in Reiki to help us, because we need all kinds of volunteers to get things done. Any organization of this nature to grow needs expertise in different areas that we don't have, especially like social media. You know, you can tell by the color of my hair that I'm not a real social media guru. But ultimately, things like that we need help with. To expand and transitioning to the virtual programming has been something that takes a lot more effort than we realized. Okay, and our volunteers have been great. And so whether they're trained, we have some people that have volunteered to help us that aren't trained in Reiki. They just help us with other aspects of the organization and things like that, because they like what we do. We have a lot of people who are trained in Reiki, and they want to volunteer for various things to use the energy to help others. And in that, we have multiple clinical programs that we offer. Now, at the moment, due to COVID, those clinical programs are on hold. Okay, hopefully we're getting them back up again in the near future. Depends what goes on with COVID and how it's developing. But we can't take a chance on exposing volunteers or the public to somebody accidentally transferring some negative medical issues. So we're on hold on that particular area, but we've always had clinical programs going on. They're all done with volunteers, students, or other volunteers that have been involved, and they're very successful. I mentioned the big one that we did at the hospital, where we had volunteers of all kinds doing different sessions on people.
Okay. Okay. And also a lot of students also look for volunteer hours. So if you can also talk about that.
Look forward to our.
A lot of students also, look for volunteer hours. I mean, students.
Yeah, the volunteer hours would be mainly in the clinical program I mentioned. Okay.
Okay.
We actually have a program that again is on hold, but where if you put enough hours in volunteering to work on people who come to the clinic and get either free or very highly discounted sessions. Okay, some of the sessions are free, some of them are almost free. Comparatively speaking, if you went to a professional clinic to receive one, and if they do that for a period of time, we give them a certification that they've got that much experience. So there's two sides to it. They volunteer to help with their time, and if they give us enough time, we give them a certification that they've got that much experience working on other people. So that can be a benefit to them to talk about their practice and how they can help, and gives them experience under the supervision of the Reiki Masters who run the program here.
Okay, got it. So, I also would like to know one more question from you. I have this question in my mind. Does Reiki necessarily require touching? Or because, at these times, I don't think so. It is touching is allowed because, it is all about social distancing. 2020 was all about social distancing. So in Reiki, is touching important, or we can, also do it virtually if you want to?
It can be done virtually.
Okay.
If you'd like, I'll give you an example of an interesting case. We had a client referred to us by one of our students in Florida. We're in basically Charlotte, North Carolina. Our student was in Florida, and she referred a client to us from Connecticut. Okay. And this client had stage 4 cancer in 4 areas of his body. He called up and he asked if he could get Reiki from us. And obviously he's in Connecticut, we're in Charlotte, and we said, sure. And it was all done remotely. In 3 months of Reiki, his doctors told him that the cancer had receded from his liver and his spleen, and that it was only in his esophagus at that point. And by spring of the following year, all the cancer symptoms that he had been experiencing were gone. Now, they had basically told him he had 6 months to live. And after that, he lived a considerable period of time, but he didn't specifically die from cancer. He died from other causes. that I don't have all the details, but he did pass on, but it was several years later. And so all that work, all those sessions were done remotely. And we do that all the time. We've been doing that throughout time. So physical touch is absolutely unnecessary. It makes a lot of people feel better because they feel like he's doing something specifically to them. Since COVID started and we went to just remote sessions, some of our inpatient clients who came, or in-house clients who came to the center for sessions, have transitioned to online. And one of them said to me specifically, she was a little nervous about it. And I kind of chuckled because I think it's funny. She was nervous about it in the beginning. Then after her first session, she said, wow, that was more powerful than when I'm in the office. Can I do this continuously this way? And so some people do find that a remote session has a bigger impact. I think it's because the physical touch gets you psychologically paying attention to where the hands are and stuff, and you don't relax as much. Whereas in a remote session, none of that exists. So you just sit there or just lay there and enjoy it.
Okay, and feel the energy coming through.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now I also, one last question. I also would like to know about, how do you guys and how do your organization raise funds?
Fundraising is always a challenging game for a small nonprofit. Okay. We get donations. We advertise for donations, particularly at this time of the year. Letters go out asking for support. Our educational programs, the money that's received from the educational programs goes to support the organization and fund the different things we need to accomplish, from everything from websites and things like that, so on and so forth. And we've gotten a few grants, but we're not grant experts by any means, so it's been very limited. And you talked about volunteers. We could use a volunteer there that knows something about it, because we really don't understand the grant process that well. And even though we were able to get a couple grants, it was because we impacted somebody who was working for an organization that offered grants, and they slid us in the door somehow. I'm not sure how it worked, but all of a sudden we got donated some money. So, and it was a grant. And but that's our primary source of funding: donations, educational programs, and the few grants we've had.
Okay. And I wish you more and more grants coming in, because you are doing something really amazing and you're helping people. You're making this world a better place to live in, and you're making people healthy, happy, and that's what matters. So thank you, Mr. Bill, for coming to SCube TV and speaking with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure and enjoyable. And it was very, very nice meeting you and talking with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's it from SCube TV. Keep